Imagine you're in ancient Israel. You think that you've seen a glimpse of the new moon. What do? You race to the court in Jerusalem to report what you've seen. Another Israelite, perhaps from the other side of the city, races in just a few steps behind you, eager to report their own new moon sighting. The judges, listening to your two reports separately, confirm that each of your declarations are accurate and announce the new moon. To quickly spread this information to the Jewish communities outside Jerusalem, a chain of bonfires is lit, first on one hill and then another and on to the next, with each community seeing a bonfire and lighting their own, sharing the news from hilltop to hilltop and village to village. When the moon was at its darkest, its newest, the ancient Israelites lit up the hills surrounding Jerusalem. If you've been following the news, you know that Monday will bring what can be a once-in-a-lifetime event, a total solar eclipse. But here's a fact that you may not have known. A solar eclipse can only occur in the new moon phase. For the why of this, I had to bring in the experts. I asked my cousin Aaron, an aerospace engineer, if he could answer what I thought was a quick question. Eager to help, Aaron spent 20 minutes on the phone with me, explaining some of the basics of orbital mechanics and the more detailed how of the upcoming natural event. As he spoke, the magnitude of the rarity of this total solar eclipse became more apparent. In fact, the atmosphere of the sun, the coronosphere, can't be seen outside the scope of an eclipse, meaning that this is a rare chance for researchers to explore some of the mystery behind the star at the heart of our solar system. But you don't have to be a scientist to be mesmerized by this event and what seems like the magic surrounding it. The total solar eclipse happens in the middle of the day. And if you are in the path of totality, with the moon and the sun perfectly aligned, the dark sky will reveal what is always there, all the stars in the sky. Too often, we get caught up in what is able to be seen immediately in front of us. This eclipse gives us a chance to wonder what is happening before our eyes that we otherwise may miss, and to look closer into that unknown. This moment of darkness, this eclipse, will give way to what otherwise cannot be seen. Here's another eclipse fact. The next total solar eclipse will not be visible in the United States, experts say, until 2045. But even now, we know that whenever it next appears, it will be on Rosh Chodesh, because it can only appear during the new moon. And we know that because our ancient rabbis were lovers of schedules and order, time mattered deeply to them. They looked to two different timetables to order their days, months, and years. First and foremost, our tradition looks to the moon. We are a lunar people with just enough solar to keep us on track. As the tradition developed, moving further from our nomadic biblical origins, we turned not only to the sun and the moon, but to the sacrificial system, whose daily, weekly, and yearly commitments ordered our ancient days and nights. I knew that there was a reason I loved those ancient sages. While my personal calendar is not filled with sacrificial appointments, the ancient rabbis and I share the desire for timeliness and orderly plans. The ancient rabbis found comfort in time, dictated by the lunar cycle, as an organizing principle, a way to maintain not just structure, but sanctity as well. As Orthodox Jewish feminist Blue Greenberg writes, It is generally accepted that Judaism as a religion is more oriented to holiness of time than holiness of place. There are many occasions we sanctify, but very few places we call holy. Not only do we as Jews have our own calendar, but we also have the unique opportunity to extract meaning, learning, and even comfort from each of our months and the cycles of our seasons. Unlike the mundane rhythms that come with each day of the week or each month of the year on the Gregorian calendar, we live our spiritual and reflective lives through the Hebrew calendar, giving us space to be open to what each month has to offer without too many preconceived notions. This isn't to say that the Hebrew calendar is void of uneventful and ordinary days, but rather, the preconceived notions we experience with the Hebrew calendar are aligned with holiday celebrations and not the day-to-day rhythm of our lives. Keeping with Jewish time can allow us to pause and be aware of the movement of time without holding the same strong stereotypes found on the Gregorian calendar, like the Sunday scaries or Wednesday as hump day. As Jews living in the United States, we can turn towards the Hebrew calendar to orient ourselves to the spiritual as a supplement to the perhaps more tedious daily life as presented by the Gregorian calendar. When we hear the word Saturday, we might not associate anything notable with it. But when we hear Yom Shabbat, we think of the commandments given, Shamor v'zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'kodsho. We think, remember and observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. We need both Saturday and Yom Shabbat. Saturday as a day off from the busyness of daily life, and Yom Shabbat as a day for spirituality and ritual. And sometimes we get a day or a moment that is extraordinary on any calendar. On Tuesday, as the moon and the sun return to their usual places, as this new moon rises, we will welcome the month of Nisan. Nisan, which is identified as the first month on the Hebrew calendar when it is mentioned in the book of Exodus, is unique. Not only is it one of the few months mentioned by name in the Torah, but it is also given a nickname, Chodesh HaAviv, the month of spring. In anticipation of Nisan and with it the celebration of Pesach, the Shabbat leading up to Rosh Chodesh, this Shabbat is called Shabbat HaChodesh. Tomorrow morning, it is traditional, even though the weekly Torah portion is from Leviticus, to read the verses from Exodus in which Nisan is named, and we are given the laws of Pesach. We are encouraged to eagerly look toward the arrival of Nisan and the new opportunities that spring will bring. It might be excitement for the start of baseball season, or the changes in the weather and hope that the days of warm sunshine are here to stay more than they were this week. Or perhaps it's cleaning out a closet and doing some spring cleaning. The freshness of spring can provide us with new perspectives as the darkness of winter gives way to what is normally unseen. In addition to heralding spring, Nisan also marks the halfway point towards Tishrei and the High Holy Days. We are 6 months into 5784 and 6 months away from 5785. Maybe now is a good time to check in. Check in with how you're doing this year. Are there things you threw away during Tashlich on Yom Kippur that have made their way back into your life? Or new things that you already know you want to release next Yom Kippur? Nisan can be your chance to check in with yourself at this halfway mark. Though we may not be as well versed in telling time by the positioning of the sun and moon as the ancient rabbis, maybe this month can be different. As we enter into the month of Nisan, may we each take time to check in with the moon and see not just how full it is, but what else is illuminated around it. Shabbat HaChodesh, with its special Torah reading, prompts us to look ahead towards Passover and towards celebrating our freedom from Egypt. Something that for me, and likely for many of us, feels much harder to do this year. While the month of Nisan places us on the journey towards celebrating our redemption from slavery, we as a people are still sojourned in Egypt, both in alignment with our Hebrew calendar and at this moment in time. This year, Rosh Chodesh Nisan also falls almost exactly 6 months after October 7th. We hold the memory of those who were murdered 6 months ago, along with fear and distress for the hostages still held in Gaza, and concerned about how much longer this war will continue, with more lives taken with each passing day. When I think about the hostages, among the pains I feel is the idea of not seeing light, the physical pain of being in the dark, the spiritual pain of darkness. Each week in our beautiful prayer for the captives, we sing, "From the darkness to the light, we are with you." Being outside the path of totality of the solar eclipse, we may not personally experience the darkness in the middle of the day. We know that somewhere there are witnesses to the full eclipse and to the light that continues to shine even when the bright light of the sun is out of sight. We can know that there is light not only elsewhere in the sky during the eclipse, but in the days and nights ahead. That comforts me, not only during the eclipse, but when I think of the hostages. With each passing night, the moon will illuminate more and more until the night sky is brightened by the fullness of the moon. Passover, Sukkot, and Tu B'Shvat each take place at the full moon, when we can feel comforted by its bright, shining light. Tuesday night's sky will be dark, with a new moon preparing to share its light. In the month ahead, may it shine on us, and in the words of the traditional Achenu, shine on us and the entire house of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.